With 3 days until the NFL draft, Wonderlic scores starting to trickle out as we get closer. And with Tua Tagovailoa reportedly scoring a 19, which is a tick below the average of 20. And it was sort of a weird weekend for that as I bring Schefter into the conversation, because first they leaked out a much lower number, and then it comes out that 19 is the actual number. What can you tell us about this and the reaction to it?
And 19 is fine, Greeny. Look, there is football intelligence and there's book intelligence, and Tua clearly has the football intelligence that he needs. It's just one more factor that teams go through on their long list of items as they're analyzing each player. And it's no different with Tua and a Wonderlic. When you're as dissected as Tua is, you're going to look at every single little thing. But that 19 on the Wonderlic is not going to make or break him. It's just one more log thrown into the fire as teams brainstorm and try to figure out whether or not he's going to make it big at the next level.
I sort of thought the way this whole thing went this weekend was interesting, too, because first this much lower number comes out, and then it turns out people like you and Laura are correcting the story. That sort of reads to me like someone's trying to put some information out there that might try and knock him down draft boards. In your experience, is that the sort of thing that goes on this week?
Listen, I think there's a lot of things that are put out there. Teams can believe whatever they want. If they've done the work, they know what the situation is. And the first test apparently was from a couple of years back. Wasn't trying, wasn't thinking. Who knows if it's right? Again, look at the film. Look at the medicals, make your decision.
Yeah, the medicals obviously being the complicating factor here. Let me bring Dan and Marcus into the conversation here. Dan, I know that we were talking together, you and I, a little bit over the weekend about your thoughts on this. Where do you land on this morning about the significance of Tua and the Wonderlic test?
Well, this morning it's insignificant to me, but when the score came out, Greeny, I was shocked. I'll be honest with you, I was shocked because it didn't match his tape. Like, that low of a score didn't match his tape. And instantly I'm like, this doesn't make sense to me, because on tape he is such a quick thinker and such a good processor, and I expected the score to be higher. And then I have this exchange with Hall of Fame coach Tony Dungy, and he shares what Chuck Noll taught him was, hey, when you go on the road recruiting to a player, you do not bring a tape measure, you do not bring a stopwatch. You trust your eyes and you trust your brain. And he told me the reality is, what is the player on tape? Who is the player on tape? Because that matters a lot more than how they're going to grade in some tests. And it forced me to kind of reset my brain and how I was thinking about it, and kind of just going back to the tape with Tua. And so I think the reality is that we've seen great quarterbacks, Hall of Famers, score poorly, and Terry Bradshaw and Dan Marino and Jim Kelly. And then we've seen first-round quarterbacks really well on the test that weren't good, or didn't pan out. Guys like Johnny Manziel or Blaine Gabbert. So for me, the test is as insignificant as it can be.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, it seems to me one of those many things people will put into the hopper as they make these decisions. Marcus, how about you?
I feel like it's insignificant too, G. The thing I thought about, though, just not to be totally out on the Wonderlic, which I am, but for the sake of us having this discussion, I wonder if it matters if guys are neck and neck when it comes to the football part of it. I wonder how much does a Wonderlic come into play? Like Schefter just said, another log in the fire. I just had that thought. Tua, to me, is as good in making football decisions on the field as I've seen since I've been covering college football. He had some bad plays his first year starting against Georgia and obviously LSU. But with that being said, man, when you look at the kid play football, when you look at Tua make decisions, diagnose defenses, run the offense to how they want him to run it, then you don't give a damn about a Wonderlic test. The thing, too, is it wouldn't be a lot of football players in the NFL and a lot of Hall of Famers if it was based on the Wonderlic test, G. I guarantee you that.
Schefter, go ahead.
Well, Greeny, I just have a funny story to share. Back when the NFL Network hired me in 2004, shortly after I signed my contract, I got a call that they wanted me to meet with investigators, and I was like, did something go wrong? Like, what happened here? And I got very nervous, and they had me meet with these investigators. And when I sat down to meet with them, at the time I had been running Wonderlic scores in the Denver Post for years, and they were so offended by that they wanted to know who was giving me these scores and where I was getting them from. And the NFL has great sensitivity to these scores getting out, as evidenced by the fact that they had that meeting. They don't like these scores getting out. It's confidential. There are a lot of evaluators that think it's confidential. It's not relevant to a player style, and they don't like that numbers like this reflecting intelligence get out into the public to merit further discussion. There's enough there to discuss and analyze these football prospects for what they are, that this shouldn't be a part of it. And I don't think the NFL likes it one bit at all.
Fair. Hey, very quickly, Schefter, because some of these mock drafts are coming out from people who cover the league, people who are plugged into the league. And what I'm seeing is people, just Tua dropping down these boards. Again, these are just people's projections. Go ahead. What are you hearing?
I still believe he goes in the top 10. I don't think he makes it out of the top 10. I still think the overwhelming chances are he goes somewhere in the 5 or 6 range. There are the two teams right there, Miami and the Chargers, right? Over the weekend, somebody called me and said, hey, the Dolphins are on Tua and Love for all the talk we've heard about Herbert. And I don't know what's right at this point in time. But I'm telling you right now, it seems like Tua's going to be right in that range, 5, 6, somewhere in that spot. If he slides past there, maybe a team moves up. There are other teams at the back end of the top 10, Jacksonville maybe. So it just depends on what happens here. It's a big week, obviously. I don't see him sliding very far.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.